floor no so ache dia ho. For him and I woman, aha, Omo and Obu control marketing in a Kajeta marketing. Yes, and penny for more no. And yes, I'm getting no more TSC floor no. Get no econo. Yeah, maybe I'll be dear today. Where dear, as will cheer you, mammy. As a mammy to contomere, mammy to contomere. Aha.
And Twitter, and we're about to have a conversation on the World Consumer Rights Day, which falls today under the theme Fair Digital Finance. And to help with the conversation today, I have with me the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, as we call it, the Telecoms Chamber, Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe, who's sporting a new look. For those of you who haven't seen this new look in a while, but there's a new look of Ken Ashigbe. Hi Ken, good afternoon.
Thank you very much, David.
And how are you doing?
God is blessing me, I'm very good.
Well, I know the story behind the beard. But I know our viewers might not know about it. Did you want to share?
Well, the interesting thing is my son put me to this. You know, he says, I've not had a change of look before, you know, since I was born, 50-something years. So I should try this. So I'm trying it. So I'm waiting for him to.
I tried it and I was asked to remove it. So
you see,
I had to.
The home is split. the boys are on one side, you know, and the girls. I'm beginning to even win my daughter over.
That's nice. That's nice. Also joining the conversation, you know, viewers, is Ernest Osei Poku, and he's with Vodafone. Are you the GM or something?
I manage external affairs for Vodafone.
Okay, good to have you, sir.
Thank you.
So, Uncle Ken, let me start the conversation with you. And as I mentioned, today is the World Consumer Rights Day. For the benefit of those who might not know what the Consumer Rights Day is all about, give us a bit of a background to it.
Right. So, thank you very much. So, the 15th of March, it started with JFK putting, you know, focus on the definition of what the right of the consumer is, and the fact that it needed to be taken a bit more seriously and it needed to be protected. And so to commemorate that, and the fact that all of us as businesses realize the fact that without customers there are no businesses, and all of us are also customers one way or the other. Even internally within businesses, we have internal customers as well. So this is a day that has been set aside to celebrate, commemorate, remind ourselves of the right of the customer and the fact that we need to put premium to that and be able to help the customer realize these rights. And the interesting thing is that for every year there's a theme that is celebrated. And for this year the theme is Fair Digital Finance. And for us in Ghana, it sits, you know, it's very apt. And so we're looking at how to ensure that this whole digital financial system is fair to all customers.
We'll be talking much more about you know, the theme in a bit, but let me throw in this question. I know that you've had a series of activities marking and observing the day. How do you say it's been like? Where have you been to? What engagements have you had? How do you describe the whole day in terms of the activities?
Well, it's been great. You know, before the COVID in 2019 or 2020, we're in Makola in Accra, where we then had the Magdat event. But for this one, we decided to come to Kumasi and to specifically to KJTIA, so that it gave us an opportunity for us to be able to interact with the consumer in a place where already business happens at the basic level, where you have traders in there, you have both retailers, wholesalers, and KJT is a very interesting place, you know, a mix of our traditional Ghanaian markets with an avant-garde, you know, contemporary touch to it. And they also brought together various stakeholders. So at this particular event, which we marked at KJTIA, we did it in collaboration with the Bank of Ghana. And then we also had the regional minister was represented by the director for urban roads. And then we had the executive secretary of the Ghana Internet Service Providers Association being present. Then our members, so you had Tigo, MTN, Vodafone, we had Huawei being present, we had American Towers being present, and then other stakeholders including the agents and our merchants of our electronic money issuers, that is Tigo money, Vodafone, MTN mobile money, and then Vodafone cash were all present. And definitely the consumers were there, the market women were there, the market men were also there, the general public also were there. And not only did we mark the day with some education, taking feedback, Bank of Ghana organized clinics for customers, so that customers who had any issues so far as banking were concerned could go and interact with them. We also had SIM card registration at the venue. I'm not even sure whether they are closed yet. We started off with it, had the program, and then went over again after the program, continued with the SIM registration.
You mentioned feedback. What kind of feedback did you get from the people you engaged with today?
So people were concerned generally about, you know, challenges they've had so far as using digital financial services were concerned. and how they had to deal, how they could deal with the situations that they found themselves in. And people were also, we got an opportunity of showing some of these fraud typologies, the modus operandi of these fraudsters, and the customers were pleasantly surprised at some of the things that were captured, because some of them had happened to them. And so there were a lot of learnings, that had come from that. You got also some of the agents share the examples of, there was one that had started off from tabletop, and now had various branches in other places. I think one of the feedback we also got was the fact that there was a particular product offering that Vodafone Cash and then Tigo Money had brought up, which were suggesting that works very well during holidays and then weekends. I think they were calling it cash out. And then they were encouraging MTN to also be able to do that. There were people who also did one-on-ones with Bank of Ghana who had issues, who had went there. One of the feedback we got was somebody who had a challenge in 2018 about some fraudulent thing, and some help were done. There were people who also came in and they had registered their SIMs with different names, and wanted to do the SIM registration with an ID they had. So they had to be told to the processes to go through to be able to get that done. Go back to the various MNOs to go and get that done. So generally, that's what came up. Yes.
And so, tell me, how was the experience like for you? You represented Vodafone. You were on the ground. How was the experience like for you?
It was quite interesting. We work in external affairs, so most of the time we're backstage in the office. We tweak the wires in the back end. So it was nice to be in the field to see the energy that the people brought to the event. And it was nice to also see, as Dr. Ken says, we captured some of the difficulties that they've been facing in terms of fraud. We put forward some sketches, and they really identified with those sketches and really understood what was going on. It was informative and funny at the same time. So it was really nice to just feel that energy that they brought.
We'll be talking much more about the fraud and how they operate and all. But if you look at the World Consumer Rights Day, one of the things that it intends to do is to protect and respect the consumers. How well are we doing in that space?
It's a work in progress. We're not winning, but we're not losing. For a long time we haven't had the tools available to us to really protect them. And by tools I mean SIM registration. For the past 10 years up until now, we've not really had a system that we could really use to verify that somebody who said they were a person was really that person. And it was only in 2018 that the National Identification Authority started rolling this out. And that has given us a really powerful tool that allows us to really ascertain the identity of a person. And then once we can map that identity to the ownership of that SIM card, then we can begin to see things like fraud and SIM boxing decline. That's the hope. It's a work in progress. So
yes, work in progress, I appreciate it, and that is by way of the protection bit. But let's focus a bit on the respect for consumers. There are concerns from some consumers that, well, you place a call to some of the telcos and the way you're received. There are concerns about respect for them. How about that?
It's a difficult industry because I was talking to one of my colleagues who manages, for instance, our call center, and we receive about 400,000 calls a month.
400,000 calls?
400,000 calls.
Is it calls or complaints?
400,000 calls.
Calls a month. Okay.
Now, even if you say 50% of those are complaints, that's 200,000 complaints a month. And the call centers dimension, the Wix dimension, you only have a certain number of people who can. So again, it's a mature industry, but in certain aspects, it's still a young industry. And we are working to see how we can improve things. We're introducing digital tools and seeing ways in which we can manage people's calls rather than drop a call, for instance. So we're finding clever ways like SMS and applications through which we can manage people. So again, it's a journey. We're on that journey, and we haven't reached the end of it. But
we haven't reached the end of the journey yet. It's still work in progress. But are you satisfied with the pace, Ken?
Well, I think generally to a large extent, the good thing is that the trajectory is in a positive direction. There's improvement coming in, and the things that artificial intelligence, augmented reality and all of that is doing for us is being able to use these tools to also be able to augment what human beings are able to do. Because see, now telecommunication has become as a utility, and everybody needs it at the same time, and you need feedback coming in. And I think COVID has accentuated the need for telecommunication. And so there's so much that people require. But there are a lot of challenges also that bedevil us. So typically you talk about the issues of core quality and all of that. The issues of fiber cut in our country is it's unimaginable. I was at the Mobile World Congress in Spain, and we're discussing that. So, this is me lamenting and thinking that, Ghana, our colleagues in Cote d'Ivoire and all of that apparently also are facing the same thing. And so there's something that we really need to do. The challenges with, so you have people who are just digging and they go and cut your fiber. What it would result is the fact that, the fiber is a bigger pipe. Then if you have to fix it, you might have to put some radio in, in the interim. It would mean that all that volume of water, if you took water as an analogy that you're passing in, now you have a smaller pipe that you're passing that through. So definitely you're going to have challenges. You have challenges with people going into some of these cell sites, vandalizing, stealing fuels and all of that. It might result in that particular cell site going down, and people will have complaints. And so, and another issue that also is bedeviling the industry is that with COVID, is the appetite and the demand for data. There's actually a deficit in there. And so we need to work together with all players, including the regulator, including policymakers. We're still sitting and we're still running, though there's a policy on technology neutrality. We're still, compartmentalized. So we have spectrum that Vodafone, Teltigo, MTN has, but they're using that to do 2G. Some of it for 3G. You have specific spectrum for 4G. 5G is going to come. There are places in this world where currently they are shutting down their 2G, even for 3G. So we need to ensure that we provide a lot more spectrum, so that the reuse of spectrum that results in the challenges that you have with core quality and all of that can improve. I know that the NCA is working together with the MNOs in that direction. The whole conversation of national roaming is all in the offing. All of these things are things that we need to do to be able to improve the quality of service. Another challenge, that the consumer will talk about is even the cost of service, and the issue is that the cost of service is a product of the cost of running the service. We sit in a country where a 2x10 license is sold for 60 million. In a country where the average revenue per user is about the same thing as Tanzania, but Tanzania has a larger market size than we're doing, and they are doing that for about 10 million. So when you have those differentials, so far as cost is concerned, it then percolates down to how much we pay. And another examples are the cost of even right-of-way. When you go into right-of-way, where we lay our fiber, it's only telecommunications that is charged in dollar. Everybody else is not even charged. But when it comes to telecommunication, you have to pay $283 per kilometer that you lay. So all of these costs, end up to the extent that for every 1 cedi that comes to the telecommunication sector, about 40% goes back to the government in terms of taxes, levies, and fees. And these are things that we all need to work together. Once we are now considering telecommunication as a utility, and then we need to ensure that the consumer would get that, the consumer would then be able to use that. These are all things that we need to do. But I completely agree with Ernest when he says that this is work in progress, and we seem to be improving. And the speed at which we are improving, it's good. But the only thing is that the needs of people now, the things that you and I, today, we're sitting here having this program. David, when you and I were running Lab FM, we would have had an OB van, a big OB van sitting here. All of this is going via technology, and thousands of people are watching it. So our demand for data has increased. And so some of the challenges are expected, and we hope that as technology comes, we would also be able to live up to it, because definitely the customer is king.
And I agree with you, because the future is undeniably digital.
Yes.
Question is, are we really ready? And I read something, an article, where, was it in 2020 or 2021, where you mentioned that our spectrum shortage is close, and we needed to do something about it. Has it been tackled to your satisfaction?
Well, it's being tackled. It's being tackled. It's not been done. You know, the interesting thing is that it was the MPP1 government that brought the policy change for technology neutrality. But look at us. We have had MPP1 finish, have had NDC come in, MPPs in, Nanado's finish his first term, where the second term was still in the process. That really needs to be speeded up, because there's so much spectrum that is required to be able to do a lot of. And the interesting thing is, if you take Airtel Tigo, for example, because of the measure that happened between Airtel and Tigo, there's so much spectrum that they are holding. But they are in specific, you know, so you can use it only for 2G, you can only use it for 3G. And if, you know, we had technology neutrality, they could refarm all of that for LTE. You know, there's 5G coming. How are we preparing to ensure that, you know, we can get contiguous spectrum, you know, to be able to run all of this? Because definitely the future is, you know, is digital, and there are a lot of, and especially for us in Africa, people talk about the fact that, you know, 5G, we've not even dealt with 4G, but we are the people who sit in Ghana, and then you have all the doctors sitting in Accra, sitting in Kumasi. But 5G will give you the opportunity, because of the low latency, for you to get doctors sitting in Komfo-Anokye and be able to do surgeries in my hometown in Chame, for example. And so we need it even more than, you know, some of the people out there. And it has to be a combination of the technologies. We need to push 4G to make sure that 4G is ubiquitous and it's everywhere, and then be able to bring 5G in.
How soon is the 5G coming?
I know that some of our members are talking about doing experimentations. 5G is, you know, when we were in Spain, there's still people were talking. I began talking even about 6G. You know. So I'm hopeful that we should be able to get some tests running maybe before the end of the year. And then be able to also slap that on, so that we'll be able to improve, you know, in terms of industry. And that's what 5G is going to do for us. We're going to move from just the issue of communication and doing the things we do, the entertainment, but actually running our businesses, you know, using technology.
Well, we thank you very much for, you know, joining us on Facebook and, of course, on YouTube as we have this conversation. Today being the World Consumer Rights Day, and with the theme, you know, fair digital finance. We're having a conversation with Ken Ashigbe, who is the CEO of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, and Ernest Osepo, who is with Vodafone. And we're having this conversation because we need to understand and appreciate where we are, where we're going to. One of the concerns that I picked up from what Ken was saying, Ernest, has to do with the fact that people dig and they cut into fibers and all that. That's to suggest that if there's a problem, there's a challenge, and somebody wants to dig, they don't consult you guys, and who pays for it? Because if there's a damage to any of these fibers, it's at a huge cost.
It is. But good news. So there's two items of good news here, right? So the cybersecurity bill was passed in 2020, and that cybersecurity bill enabled the sector minister to classify telecoms equipment as critical, which has been done. So our equipment is critical. It has been recognized by the state as critical infrastructure. The other bit of good news is, yes, there are a lot of fiber cuts, but fiber cuts are an indication that your country is developing at a rapid pace. So people are digging, building buildings, bridges, roads, and that's why we're seeing this frequency. Now the question is, how do we work with these agencies to mitigate, and that's what we're working on. We're seeing better collaboration with the Ghana Highways Authority, with the Department of Urban Roads. We're beginning to understand each other and see the best ways in which we can fix this. One good example is what Dr. Ken in the Chamber helped us to do with the Temakra, the new construction on the Temakra Highway. So there's a duct system that is being put in place, which allows all the telcos to run their ducts right through on the side of the road, which means that future digs, future developments don't damage that infrastructure. And it's policies like that that you know, once we're able to pull off on that stretch, it serves as a proof of concept, and then maybe we can write it into policy, and going forward, any development will have something along those lines.
Let's talk about coverage. Let's talk about coverage, because we are hoping that several years after using, you know, mobile phones, we should not, you know, gone are the days where people say, well, I have to climb a tree to be able to get a network right to have my conversation and all that. How well positioned are we when it comes to coverage? Coverage.
Coverage?
Yes.
We're doing fantastic with coverage. I mean, the government has launched the, you know about the Rural Telephone Initiative, which really is trying to blanket the entire of Ghana with at least 2G technology. All the MNOs, all the network operators are party to that, Vodafone included. So you'll see, I think last year there were about 1,000 sites, 1,000 rural sites that the government put up. So the coverage is there. The coverage is happening. It's happening as we speak. It's because we're in the cities, you know, we're used to having 3, 4G, so you know, we don't see it. But when you go into the hinterlands, people are beginning to have access to more and more services because of coverage.
Engineer Dr. Kenashigbe, let's talk about the SIM card registration exercise that has been on for some time now. How well would you say it's going?
Well, I think we started off with a few hiccups and a few challenges so far as SIM registration was concerned. You know, the number of outlets that we had were limited. You know, we then had an app also that had challenges with it. But thank God, the app, there's been significant improvement in the app, and the chamber and its members have also taken up the task of, you know, increasing the number of touch points and the number of places where SIM registration is taking place. So typically, for example, today we were in the KJTIA where SIM registration happened. The NCA, for example, is in somewhere in Adan. Adan is we are also doing the same thing. Where at the chamber level, we go to churches over the weekends. We go to companies, you know, to get all done. So there's been some improvement. I know that the Minister of Communication, somewhere in February, at the event, talked about the fact that in March we should be expecting some eminent announcement, because definitely we will not be able to cover all the SIM cards, 40 million SIM cards that we have, because the Ghana card itself, not every Ghanaian has it. So we need to take that into consideration. The fact that Ghana card, the NIA themselves are also ramping up the numbers that they're registering, and then now that the processes have been streamlined, we are seeing now customers are not coming like we used to see in the past, where they would not have done the star 404 before coming in the whole process. So you're not seeing too many queues also at shops and all of that. But definitely it's a function of time. How many of that 40 million can you do in a day to be able to ensure that by end of March you'll be able to do it? And so I'm hoping that, you know, even if it's extended, Ghanaians would, you know, take the urgency that's required, because you see, SIM card registration is a national imperative. It's about the security of a lot of things that we do, because now for everything you do, that's, you know, your number, the uniqueness of that number is you, and we need to be able to identify who has which SIM and all of that. So it's important that we take this exercise seriously, and then we take advantage of it to be able to do it. And so we're hopeful that the Minister of Communication would come up with a directive, and we would work together with him and with stakeholders like yourself in the media and all of that, be able to rally everybody together, get the NIA too as well, also working to ensure that everybody can get this Ghana card. And one of the things we've also been pushing for is self-registration, you know, because there are a lot of Ghanaians who are still outside our jurisdiction, you know, who still use their SIMs. You know, a lot of them use it to do mobile money and all of that. How are they going to register it? There are some people who cannot just come to, you know, old ladies, you know, who cannot themselves come to do it. How are you going to be able to do it? Today, if you're there, you saw that the MNOs, beyond just agents, a lot of the staff themselves, who also have phones and devices that can do registration, are all part of it. If we can get the self-registration happening. So David, yourself, if your mother, you know, is not strong enough to come, you could, you know, actually do the process for her at home. So that's another leg that we're hoping that is in the offing. That would be.
But hope itself is not enough, is it? I mean, I'm excited that you are encouraging people to take this SIM card registration more seriously than they are. I had the opportunity of calling on a telco to come and, you know, register people in my area, you know, and that took place on Saturday. And there were so many people in my neighborhood who came out in Indian numbers to register. And I like the innovation, because they could just simply use their mobile phone to check your bio information and all that. But when you engage with people, they don't seem to be concerned about the registration. If I lose my card, so what?
I think that, you see, it's generally a challenge with ourselves as a people. Ghanaians are very last minute in the way they do their things, and also people don't get to see we're still living in the world where I lose my SIM, I could get another SIM. If you lose that SIM and you want to go and get another SIM, the new SIM that you're going to get, you need to get your Ghana card to be able to get that done. And so it's really, we need to do a lot of education. And the example of yourself being able to get the MNOs to come into your community to be able to do that has to happen. But I think also for us as an industry, we need to do this exercise in such a way that it does not have to take an effort from people to be able to do that.
But would you say, for example, Ernest, would you say that you have given enough education, enough information, the reason why they need to register their SIMs? Have you given, as a telco yourself, Vodafone, have you done enough?
I think we have. I'll tell you why. Because you can't make a call on the Vodafone network and not hear that you need to register your SIM card by a certain time. Everybody has heard it. Now the question is, what is the consequence? As Dr. Ken said, people just shrug and say, if I don't get to them, what happens? But what I'll beg people to do is look at what has happened in other countries. SIM registration is not something that Ghana started. In actual fact, several African countries have pioneered it before us. Tanzania, Mozambique, I think Nigeria. If you look to the case of Tanzania, for instance, the government shut down SIM cards. They asked the telcos, look, anybody who hasn't subscribed, done this registration by September, shut it off, and it was chaos. And I feel that it would be unfortunate for Ghana to get to that point because this lesson has already been learned. We don't need to learn this lesson again. So what we're going to do is ramp up the effort. So what we're going to do is equalize the opportunity, make it available in every community for people to be able to register, and then push the education out. And hopefully, hoping against hope, that Ghanaians will take it seriously again.
Let me borrow your word, hopeful. How hopeful are you that there will be an extension? I
am very hopeful. I'm very hopeful because
but in as much as you're hopeful, forgive me, isn't that one of the reasons why people say, oh, hey, so we will keep relaxing? Because we know that, well, they will definitely extend it.
It's true. And it was always to be expected that there would be an extension. I just say this out of hope. I haven't heard anything concrete. But as Dr. Ken said, it's a function of mathematics. And where we are when we look at the numbers at the moment, 31st of March, we won't be able to hit that number. So we're pleading, we're working with the regulator and with the ministry to see if there's something that can be done. We haven't been given any assurances.
Unfortunately, there are many people who have lost their SIM cards. There are others who do not have SIM cards. Like Uncle Ken said, there are many people who are themselves out of the country, would still want to maintain their cards. As somebody who, operates a telcos, I mean, how concerned are you that there's a challenge that people outside the country might not be able to register their SIM cards?
No, that shouldn't be a problem. Because as Dr. Ken said, we're working on a self-service application which will be made available.
How soon?
I can't give you a definite timeline, but it will happen.
Give me some space. A month, 2.
He can't give you because he's not responsible for the team that is putting it together.
Oh, but he'll be asking questions to get some information as to challenge what the situation is on the ground.
Don't put him on that spot where it is said he had said it. No, but we know definitely for a fact that the NCA and its partners are working on that. It's an imperative that the minister has asked that to be done. And you see, the thing to realize is that for us, every SIM card is a business.
Yeah.
That's business. So we don't want to lose it. And also the ministry itself do not want to lose that. It's something that they would want everybody to do. So it's not as if SIM registration was done to cut some people off. SIM registration was just done to ensure that the challenges that we currently face with it, we deal with it. So we'll do everything technologically possible to ensure that this is being done. And as Ernest said, we know that self-service is on its way coming.
Okay,
it will be sooner than later.
So we have all come to accept the usage of the digital platform in terms of money, the Momo, but it has its own challenges. Fraud being one of the key things, and I'm excited when I heard, Ken Ashigbe mentioned that when they went to the market today, the traders themselves, the businesswomen and men themselves raised concerns about it. And if I listened to him carefully and I heard him, he says that they give practical things as to how people operate in that space. Share some with us. What are some of the things that they do?
So I think we shared about 4 different videos, at the location.
And those videos will be shown on YouTube and Facebook as well. So join us there. Tell your friends about it. Tell relations about it. Let them join us on Facebook and YouTube and see things for themselves.
So like there was one about somebody who's, Sadio Mane was supposed to be his, the person he looks up to, and somebody had seen him, liking him all around Facebook and all of that, and called him that your Sadio Mane, you're sending him, a jersey that he won for the finals of the UEFA. And so then the person calls and says, oh, but there's a challenge. Send some money to get it. Definitely that was somebody trying to get the money off him. There was a Malam who also said somebody had come to, brought his name that they should deal with him, and he wanted him to get things including the scale of a female fish. So, and finally he knew the guy could not get the things and had to get money. Now the guy asked questions about, give me the name, what the person said, he could not give it. There was another example of somebody who was called from school. So so David, somebody calls you and says he's from your school, and your son had fallen, was unconscious. They'd gone to the hospital. They said they needed oxygen, so send some money in. The woman was about to send it, and the PA said, this thing, so call another person in the school. So called and found out the child was hale and hearty. There was an example of somebody who also was supposed to have sent some money, it was some clothes, from outside. I had a conversation with the woman as if he knew the woman. And then in all of that, somebody's asking you questions, and there were issues about where they want you to share your PIN and all of that, So the focus was telling people that the systems that we run for mobile money is very secure. Nobody has been able to hack any mobile money system because the security around it is that secure. So what they do is social engineering. They will get into a conversation with you. You also continue the conversation. By the time you see it, you're sharing, your PIN with them, and then they find a way of, taking money off you. They will say they would have sent you a text message of some money you received. Unfortunately, our people would also not go and check whether they are balanced to find out whether there's any money in there. Some people would not have done any competition at all. You know yourself that you've not been in a promotion. Somebody says you won a promotion, send money to, And so you see, the factor of greed, our self-greed, is also one of the challenges, that you face. And so these are some of the ways. And another new way that has come, which is not really mobile money, but is still in the digital space, the issue of people hacking people's Facebook's account. And it's interesting. The person will call you and say, oh, I am sending you a code. Send that back to me so I can help you. So if the code is with him and he's sending it to you, why wouldn't he use it? You see, so then he'll start something and generate an OTP and ask you to send it to him. You send the OTP and he takes it over and then he goes into your groups and then he's doing, So we need to improve the cyber hygiene of our people. We need to improve the awareness of our people. We need to manage a bit of our greed, because sometimes when it's too good to be true, it's actually not true, and we then fall for these things, and people are actually ripped off. So these are some of the fraud. But
would you say enough has been done? I mean, you say we should create more awareness, but from where you sit, would you say that enough has been done to give enough information to people to alert them as to being able to tell or determine who a fraudster is and all?
David, so you see, so I think it's back to what Ernest said again, if in terms of a lot of the MNOs have ads that are running, that are telling you about these things, coloring back tones, where do you call?
Do we listen to those? That's the thing. I said, no way, that's
the challenge. And sometimes I know man say, you know what I mean? Because some of the things, and you see, sometimes it's not even people who are not lettered. People who are literate, you find them fall for some of these things. But you see, when you come to the digital financial service, it's not even just the customers that are suffering. Even the operators are suffering. There are a lot of people. I know somebody who, a friend of mine, very spiritual, audacious and all of that. I was supposed to send him and he said I shouldn't send the money on that particular mobile money number. So it means he's taking a loan, and and so that's how we become. As a people take these loans, they throw the SIMs away, they don't want to pay. So the fraud, sometimes we ourselves also perpetuate. Another one that also tends to happen. He'll buy something from you. You would have delivered the service to him, you would have paid him, then you call back and says, oh, it was a wrong transaction, reverse it. you know. And so, as a people ourselves, those are some of the things, you know. When we talk about grand corruption, you know, at the top places and all of that, we also need to start dealing with integrity so far as we're concerned, because a lot of that is also at play. And that's why, you know, in all of this, you don't hope that people would be angels. That's why you would want some registration to come. So when you do these things, we actually then can track you. So beyond all the talk we've done, we also have set in place what we call the fraud control dashboard. The fraud control dashboard has come about by the chamber bringing together its members. So Vodafone Cash, MTN Mobile Money, Airtel Tigo Money have all come together with Glow, which is not even a member of the chamber, and we've put this fraud control dashboard together. By law, the MNOs, if you perpetrate fraud, which is criminal, they can block your SIM. But when they block your SIM, you know, in the past, SIM cards was there 1 CD, 2 CDs. The fraudsters will go and get it. So what next we then do is that for every device like you have, there's an IMEI number which is unique to this particular phone. So what we'll do is that we'll block that as well. But when you block it, then it's only one network that he cannot. So now if it is for Vodafone that the complaint came, Vodafone will now report it on the fraud control dashboard. Then Airtel, Tigo, MTN and Glow would also take that particular IMEI number and then we'll block it as well. When we block it, we'll go back and we'll find out that the ID that you used have been used in perpetrating fraud multiple times. Then we'll blacklist it as well. So that ID cannot be used again to register any mobile money transaction anywhere else. So that it now becomes more expensive for the fraudsters. Not only that, we also are collaborating with Bank of Ghana. So Bank of Ghana is sitting on that particular portal as well. We have the cyber crime unit of the police CID also on there, and then the cyber security authority also in there. And so all of this information is going to come up. And you might go and want to do a banking transaction somewhere. Bank of Ghana would have all your details and will say, oh, you are a fraudster. You know, the police the long arm of the police might get to you if you take the cyber security law that NS talked about that has been come. But some of the things that are in there that are criminal, and then we'll be able to find you. So now if SIM registration comes, now it will be very difficult for people to do it, and then we'll be able to weed these people out.
So the SIM card registration as we have it now is really going to help us a lot. Let me throw in this question, and I'm happy that this problem is going to be solved. But now, currently, people have blamed telcos that they are slow in responding to concerns of people. So somebody might have defrauded me. I call the telcos. And then they process this. So we're working with processes. So I cannot blog now, go to a police station, report it and all that. Tell us about the process. Can't you, in a way, if somebody raises concern, do something in the interim, investigate so at least the money is not withdrawn by the person who, you know, wants to defraud somebody?
So what happens right now is if you report fraud, and I assume we're talking about fraud, if you report fraud to any of the telcos, not just Vodafone, immediately we check if the money is still in the account, and the account is frozen. Immediately?
Okay.
Yes.
Immediately the account is frozen.
I'm happy that Vodafone does it, because I dealt with a different telcos on behalf of somebody, and they didn't do it immediately. It took some time.
It should be
immediate.
If you call, all the telcos have a helpline. If you call that helpline and you say the word fraud, that account immediately check if first you have to check that the money is there, because now the fraudsters are very quick. When they defraud you, they take the money. Once the money is out of the
or transfer it to another number.
But even then,
yes,
one telco can tell another telco that it has been transferred. So we can still block, but the action has to be fast, because once the money leaves the mobile money ecosystem, it becomes very, very difficult to recoup that.
Okay. So let's talk about a few other things. I wish we had ample time to talk some more, but unfortunately, time is not our friend right now. And I'll take this opportunity to encourage more people to go out there and register their SIM cards, because it's going to protect you in many, many ways. Even when it comes to bank transactions, we're told that from June, that's the identification card that we'll be using to do business or transactions in the bank. But these unsolicited messages that we get, sometimes, to be sincere and honest,
but there are two wings to this. Right? We had one of these earlier. No, it was last year. We had an auditorium full of people, and everybody walked into the auditorium. There was a piece of paper, and everybody wrote their name down on the piece of paper. Came to sit down, and I picked up the piece of paper and I said, why have you written your name, your number, your first name, your surname, and your number on this piece of paper? And somebody said, because it's a contract. It's a contract between you and who? I'm saying this to prompt us that a lot of us go to a lot of events, a lot of parties, some gatherings, and we leave our details on pieces of paper, not really thinking about why we are leaving these. These become very valuable because there are a lot of third-party vendors who will take this, who will actually buy this information and then use it for their own purposes, which is not to say, I'm not putting all the blame, which is not to say that telcos also do not play a part in this. And to put everybody at ease, we have received communication from the NCA saying that we must stop this practice. We must intervene and stop this practice and protect people. World Consumer Day, right? So they've written to us officially, all of us, and told us that, look, you need to intervene and make sure that people are actually subscribed to the services that they want. So stop all services. And to that end, we've even broadcast certain short codes. So Vodafone is 463. If you type in star 463, it will show you what you are subscribed to, and then it gives you the option to unsubscribe. And it's the same for MTN.
MTN is star 175 hash, and Airtel is star 100 hash.
Please give us the codes again.
So MTN is star 175 hash, Airtel is star 100 hash, Vodafone is star 463 hash.
But Ken, what if somebody, let's say I'm a teacher, I belong to a union, and they want to share information and say, okay, I'm a teacher, they have my details, and they come to the telcos and say, listen, let's flash this. Is that also going to be catered for?
You see, so the thing about it is that there are, as NS said, there are service providers, content providers who provide that particular service. So if you are a teacher, you have to have consent. So one of the things that we have done as an industry, even before this letter came, was the fact that a sign-in has to be done, and it has to be double. So you have to opt in twice. It will come in and it will ask you to confirm. Because sometimes, see, the thing that people do, they go to particular sites. There might be a link there. You click the link. The link is actually signing on to one of these things, and people might not realize it and all of that. They click it. So to be able to cure that, one of the things that the MNOs are doing is that we actually will ask you to confirm that you actually want the service. If it is tried for a number of times and you do not, it is blocked. There are ways in which we also are checking to find out because we know the kind of device you have. So if you have a young phone, as they call it, the feature phone, and we've seen that you've signed on for a service that is on an app, they are taking money off you, then definitely you could not have signed. So all of those, we are blocking that. When we also find out that the amount of airtime that you're loading, the percentage that is going to some of these services are beyond a particular, we start questioning it. And so we reach out to him to really confirm, otherwise we block it. So there are ways in which now we have developed that we're using to actually ensure, and some of these content providers are being sanctioned, if the particular rules that have been put in place, they're not doing it. And as a chamber, what we've done is that we've met with the content providers, and so we have set up two committees. One committee to do education, another committee to work on the governance processes, so that we really would ensure that people who are signing up to these things are people who actually want them. Because, see, truth be told, there are some good services that are being offered that people would want. If somebody is offering a service that you can go in there and be able to tell where the cheapest fuel is in today's day and age, that's a great service you'd want to get. So that's one of the things that we're advocating to the content providers, is that let's sell the benefits of these things to customers. And then also the thing about people who have not given their consent to get any messages, make sure you don't give it to them. But there are some particular messages that you would get. Once you sign up to any of the MNOs, there are some messages that are tied to the network that you definitely would get. If you don't want to get it, you then would have to say, I want to be, the number to be whitelisted so that I don't get those messages. But there are some times, so typically when COVID hit, the NCA gave us permission to be able to give unsolicited, so that one was unsolicited, messages about COVID to customers because of health and safety reasons. So those things happen, but we definitely have realized that there's been some abuse that have happened in that process. So we had the 19th Chamber Dialogue sometime last year That's when we started the process of trying to see how do we deal with this unsolicited electronic communication and try to be able to figure it out. So it's important that the short codes that we mentioned, the 175 for MTN, 100 for Airtel Tigo, and then 463 for Vodafone. You start all of them with star and hash. Dial, go in there and find out. So, if you've been signed on to anything, if you've been, you can ask to stop it.
Okay.
And you can reach out to your MNOs if there's any challenge with that.
So as we observe the World Consumer Rights Day today, I hope and pray that we've learned a lot, and that going forward we've been given assurances that we'll be respected as consumers and protected as well as consumers. Yes. Ernest Oseipoku of Vodafone, thank you very much for your time. And of course, you, Engineer Dr. Ken Ashigbe of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications, thank you very much as well. My name is David Akwete. See you some other time.
Thank you. Great. Shall this conversation